And welcome to another Pluriboom camera review. Today we have the Nikon FM2, and this is a Japanese produced camera. Nikon, the company, makes really great cameras, and it's kind of cool sometimes to think about how these industries develop in different countries. You have really high quality German engineered cameras alongside, very high quality Japanese engineered cameras, and this one is sort of something you might expect from some of those German companies in that it's very well built and sturdy and strong and built out of very strong materials. It's all metal, it's all manual, and that's part of the thing I really like about this camera. I think that when you first get into shooting film, it's really nice to get sort of a traditional SLR that's entirely manual so that you can kind of learn the ropes of exposure. You've got your shutter speed at the top here, this dial here, and one of the cool things about this is it goes up to 2,000, 4,000ths of a second. And the FM2 was sort of unique in its time for being an entirely manual camera that could have shutter speeds that quickly. And the reason for that is that the shutter is a vertical plane travel shutter that is built out of titanium, and it has this very cool honeycomb structure, and you can actually see it in here if you lift up the mirror. It's this sort of honeycomb shape, and it was designed to be able to travel at these very insanely fast shutter speeds for the time without any battery powering it. So there is a battery port on the bottom, but that's going to power your meter. And the meter on this thing, in my experience, is a bit finicky. It doesn't always work exactly well. It's a 4060 center weighted, I believe, meter, but for me it's broken multiple times. I went and got it repaired, and it costs about $100 to get a repair shop to fix the meter on this thing, and then, a year or so down the road it just goes off again. And so I typically use a manual light meter, an incident light meter, whenever I'm using this camera. And the shots come out great. But really what I think you use this camera for is for sort of getting to know all of the exposure values. And it's also got a interchangeable lens system that uses the Nikon F mount, which is incredibly ubiquitous mount. It's been around for decades and decades, and so you can find Nikon lenses that'll work on this camera that go back 50 years or more, and so it's quite incredible. Some of them won't actually work with the metering system, but that's okay for me anyways. I use a manual light meter, and so it's those AIS lenses that will work with the whole metering system. I have a Voigtlander Ultron 40mm f2 lens on here right now. I really like that focal length. You can probably find another 40mm Nikon f mount out there, but this one I think is great. It takes beautiful images. I got it for specific reasons. That's because I shoot indoors quite often, and sort of just like, friends in the kitchen kind of a thing, and the 50mm in my experience is just a tad too tight for shooting sort of people in a room, and the 40mm is just wide enough to be able to get that and still be useful sort of out on the street shooting. So I really like that focal length. It's an incredibly sharp lens, but you can get so many. I have a 50mm f1.4 from Nikon. That is a beautiful lens, incredible bokeh, and it's sharp from corner to corner all the way to wide open. It's just, and Nikon produced great Nikkor lenses on here that you should look at as well. There's not a whole lot to say about it other than that it's incredibly sturdy, and it has some cool features. You can crank this thing open. This is a lock, so you can't take a picture without having this halfway open, which you get used to very quickly. But what you can do is actually you'll take a picture by pressing down on the shutter here, and then there's a cool little lever here that if you pull it back while you crank, it actually doesn't advance the film. So you can do a double exposure without advancing the film. It's very cool. It's built right into the camera, and you have a lot of fun kind of taking a picture, spinning it upside down, taking another one, and creating some cool double exposure things in there. It's got this sweet little window here to stick your little tab from your cardboard box and your film in. I love that. I use it all the time. I am always annoyed when cameras don't have that. The Nikon FM2, just a really cool experience to shoot with. I recommend trying it out. Any of the F-series Nikons I think are great. The just plain F-series Nikons have interchangeable viewfinders. This doesn't have that, but you can change out the focusing screen on this, which I did for an F3 focusing screen, and it's much sharper and clearer than the one that came with this camera. So there are some modifications you can make, but it's just not quite as modular as those cameras, but it's still an incredibly well-built and strong camera, and a great starter camera, I think, for anybody just looking to get into sort of the deeper sort of side of the pool with film photography. If you like these videos, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing more of these sort of short camera reviews, and I'll show some images I shot with this camera as well, and you can tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching.